All right, we're live on some streams, and we're going to get cracking here as the other streams get launched and live. It's the Monday edition of the I Love Seville show. Judah, I'm seeing it live on my Facebook page. I am going to confirm YouTube here shortly, my friend. I am not seeing it live yet. Just a heads up on Twitter, J-Dubs. And that's an important platform for us, if you could check that one. I will confirm LinkedIn. We are live on LinkedIn, Judah. Yes, sir. Live on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. We are live on I Love Seville Facebook. Viewers and listeners, give the show a like and a share. I Love Seville is live. The group, I will let you know here in a matter of moments, J-Dubs. The group is live as well, Judah. Thank you. So it looks like it's just Twitter and we're ready to rock and roll. Once Twitter gets going, we'll rock and roll. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. Mel's Cafe permanently closed. Disappointed to see the permanent closure of a Charlottesville institution, but it did go as predicted on this talk show. We're going to talk on today's program, of course, the news from the weekend, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We'll see if we can relate it to Charlottesville, how it relates to Charlottesville. I was watching that with my wife, my in-laws, and we even made the bold decision of having our 6-year-old watch some of the coverage. We're careful in what our 6-year-old consumes content and media-wise, but that was a storyline that I think it's going to be history that he will learn in history classes moving forward, and I want him to be able to have perhaps some memory of watching it firsthand with his family. I remember one of the first historical significant moments of my childhood was the war in Iraq. And I remember watching the war in Iraq with my father and mother on CNN as a second and third grader. Forever stuck with me. And as we learned about the Iraqi war, I remember having these moments with my family. So Judah, once you get Twitter up and running, we can start the program. I want to talk on today's program about the Livable Charlottesville organization, the Urbanus Housing Group, who is now hoping to save the Carlton Avenue Mobile Home Park. Find it a bit odd that the housing proponents, the champions for the new zoning ordinance and more housing, are now trying to maybe crush another housing project. We'll talk about that today. There's a gambling facility in the works in Henrico County. We'll ask the question, would a gambling house or a casino of some kind work in Central Virginia? We have a message from the Jefferson Council president, and it will highlight the rising cost to attend the University of Virginia on the Monday edition of the I Love Seville show. Kevin Yancey, thank you for liking the show. Judah, if you can confirm when Twitter is live, we can rock and roll. Are we still waiting on that? Okay, if you can talk into the mic so the viewers and listeners can. Trey, Barham, thank you for watching the show. Let them know what you're doing with Twitter.
Just reauthorized, checking if that worked.
Which headline do you find most compelling?
I mean, it's pretty hard not to find the Trump assassination compelling. I mean, that was pretty wild this weekend. It's going to have, I believe, fairly long-lasting effects.
Yeah.
We are going to spend a lot of time seeing.
Yeah, 100% concur. Let us know. I'd like to, since it's a 12:36 marker, we got to get rocking and rolling. Do we have Twitter active?
Looks like it's still going.
All right. For the sake of our fans watching and viewers and listeners on other networks, we need to start the program and then see if you can get it active during the show.
Quiet on the set.
Good Monday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show. It's great to be with you on the middle of the month in July, the 15th of July, 2024, a Monday after a weekend that I don't know how you spent it, but I was rather consumed with the Trump assassination attempt. It's a topic that is still evolving. There's so many questions that I have. I'm sure the questions that I have are questions that you, the viewer and listener, have as well. How we got to that point, how something like this was even permitted to happen, how a 20-year-old can climb on a roof with hundreds of Secret Service personnel around or near or in eyesight of the president and get off multiple shots. We'll talk about that today. We'll talk about the impact that this has on not only the presidential race, but on the Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia region that has been positioned in this race by both candidates. I think this weekend we watched what will be history taught to our children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, generations to come. There'll be a chapter, there'll be days allocated by teachers to educate students on what happened on over the weekend in Pennsylvania. And we'll talk about it on today's program and offer some perspective on the show. We'll also highlight on today's show Livable Charlottesville's hopes to save the Carlton Avenue Mobile Home Park. I find it curious that housing proponents are opposing housing projects. We saw that with the third phase of Dairy Market. We saw that with the Bo Carrington Wendellwood project on the Rivanna River on East High Street. We're now seeing this with a mobile home park where the urbanist policy group, Livable Charlottesville, who's been one of the driving forces of the new zoning ordinance, they now have a playbook on social media for folks to complete or fill out online, where this playbook, this feedback will be sent to City Council to save the Carlton Avenue Mobile Home Park, where was it 60 to 60, 70, 80 families call their home? Yeah. You know, how can you be in favor of density and more housing, density and housing and a new zoning ordinance to help stabilize price points, and then kibosh projects left and right? You know, seems to be a bit hypocritical to me. I want to talk about that on today's program. I want to highlight on today's show, Mel's Cafe is permanently closed. We predicted this was going to happen. We said this was going to happen shortly thereafter the passing of Melvin Walker. Now we ask the question, what happens with the GoFundMe dollars? We'll talk about that on today's show. We'll also on the program talk about a gambling facility that's in the works for Henrico County, and I'll ask the question, if there were to be a gambling facility in the Central Virginia, Albemarle County, or the city of Charlottesville area, where would that be best suited? Where would gambling most likely call its home in the Charlottesville greater area? That topic on today's show. We'll relay a message from the Jefferson Council. The Jefferson Council's tagline is preserving Thomas Jefferson's legacy at the University of Virginia. The Jefferson Council has, 4 founding pillars, they call it. Pillar number 1, promote a culture of civil dialogue, the free exchange of competing ideas, and intellectual diversity throughout the University of Virginia. Pillar number 2, preserve the Thomas Jefferson legacy. Pillar number 3, preserve the appearance of the lawn as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And pillar number 4, support and reinvigorate the honor system. The Jefferson Council has significant momentum right now that Glenn Youngkin has 13 of 17 appointees on the Board of Visitors. We have a message from the president of the Jefferson Council when it comes to the cost of attendance at the University of Virginia. I was just talking about this yesterday with my wife and my father-in-law. The University of Virginia, for a first-year in-state student, cost of attendance, $39,494. For a first-year out-of-state student, $79,574. A third of the University of Virginia is out-of-state students. So if a third of the students at UVA are at roughly an $80,000 a year clip, $79,574 for first years, $80,636 for second year out-of-staters, and third and fourth years, $83,658 for out-of-staters. If your student is a McIntire School of Commerce undergraduate and they are out of state, they are paying north of $90,000 a year to attend the University of Virginia. A third of the student body out-of-staters. We basically have created a private school environment at a public university funded in large part by taxpayer dollars. It's no secret, it's no surprise that when a third of the student body is paying north of $80,000, $90,000 a year to attend school here, with tuition and costs escalating every year, that the community is going to gentrify rapidly, and that the student body is going to be homogenous in look and thought. We'll talk about this and relay the message from the Jefferson Council today on the I Love CVille show. Were you able to get Twitter up to speed, J-Dubs?
Still trying.
All right, we'll save that for a different day. Why don't we go on a two-shot, and we'll do some troubleshooting on Twitter tomorrow. I want to talk what we saw yesterday, or what we saw this weekend. The assassination attempt on Trump. I was glued to the phone and glued to the television. I could not believe initially what I saw. I couldn't believe the assassination attempt. What, the last one, Ronald Reagan? I could not believe the reaction from Trump after the bullet grazed his ear, his cheek, his face. Coming up, fist in the air, screaming fight with the Secret Service surrounding him. I could not believe that there was a 20-year-old Pennsylvanian who managed to army crawl a roof within eyesight of where the president was speaking with a sniper rifle.
With people watching him and pointing him out, and the whole thing is nuts.
There was a BBC interview with a Trump supporter interviewed by a BBC reporter, and he said minutes before the shooting, he was pointing and screaming at the roof, screaming, "The man has a gun, the man has a gun, he's right there, he has a gun."
There's video footage of people like pointing him out and watching him.
Minutes before the shooting happened. Then the storyline starts developing. The man who's dead, a former fire chief who jumps on top of his wife and kid to protect them from the shooting. He's the dead victim. The 20-year-old has explosive devices in his vehicle.
Wow.
At his house. 20-year-old, a registered Republican. Trump taken to the hospital, issues a statement. Biden issues a statement. Candidates, politicians, heads of companies release statements about this. I mean, history before our eyes. You know, say what you want about politics. Hate them, love them, ignore them, disregard them. Violence, no position anywhere. Certainly not in politics. The world watched what happened. Makes America look absolutely terrible. Say what you want about Trump. what happened over the weekend is only going to galvanize his base, expand his base.
I don't know how much that'll actually happen.
What happened this past weekend, I think you can safely say, is going to strengthen his campaign.
Certainly.
I think it's tailwinds for his campaign and headwinds for Biden's that was already facing significant headwinds.
No doubt.
A man who was neck and neck, slightly ahead of Biden, Trump, depending on which poll you were following, is now even more ahead of Biden.
I mean, he knows how to grab a moment, and he certainly did it with that fist bump.
The fist in the air, screaming fight with blood on his face, him surrounded by Secret Service agents, the American flag in the background on a perfect blue-skied afternoon in Pennsylvania is a photo we will see in history books for generations to come.
I mean, if it wasn't so absurd saying that the whole thing was planned, I'd almost say the whole thing was planned.
The cover of Time magazine this morning is the photo. The photo is as iconic a picture as we probably will see, certainly this year, if not for years to come.
Yeah.
The absurdity of things is something that I've thought of as well. I obviously have the questions that other conspiracy theorists have as well. Some of those questions I have is, how does a 20-year-old with limited skill sets get out a roof within eyesight of a former president who is arguably the most divisive individual, certainly in America, maybe the world, most divisive person in the world right now? Is it Putin?
I mean, that's a tough question. I don't
Is it
answer
Trump?
that. I don't think Trump is the most divisive.
Okay, one of them.
Yeah, he certainly is divisive.
How is a 20-year-old able to army crawl on a roof within eyesight with a sniper rifle?
How is that not the first place that the
Secret Service would look for an issue, for a vulnerability, for a potential breach of security?
Yeah.
Was there some kind of cahoots of some kind? Haters of Trump say that cahoots was done on his side, an organized maneuver to humanize him. Proponents, which frankly speaking, and I'll catch some heat for this, I find that to be absolutely absurd.
That is absurd.
Someone who's willing to put his life within risk, within a millimeter of a bullet grazing by his face, actually grazing his face as a political stunt, that's absurd.
Yeah.
With somebody dead as a result, and a 20-year-old as the scapegoat, that's absurd. I'm seeing an individual, I won't utilize his name, that ran for Charlottesville City Council, pushing that theory on his Facebook page. Someone we have respect for on this talk show. Both of us. Saying it was a political stunt, a political maneuver.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, the gunman got his... I don't even have the words. It's so nuts. If Trump was in on a plan like that, you would not see him moving his head a millimeter during that whole speech. If you knew a bullet was coming for your ear, and anybody that you probably talked to setting up a crazy stunt like that would probably tell you, look, the margin of error is
your life.
Yeah,
your life.
It's 2 to 4 inches.
2 to 4 inches is probably a stretch. It's your life. Like if there's a gust of wind.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There is nobody's drawing a bead on your ear. That is like such a hopeful shot that anybody who would decide to stand in
the line of fire.
Like
Clint Eastwood in the line of fire
would have to be insane.
Would have to be insane. All right, so let's we're not making this about politics. We're making this about common sense. We're both discounting that.
Yeah.
I think what should be considered should be considered is how does the security breach get to this point?
Yeah. There are certainly some inconsistencies and some questions to be answered. How does Secret Service not cover that roof? How do a bunch of people yelling, "There's a guy climbing the roof with a gun," not draw
Secret Service attention to neutralize the vulnerability? Shoot the guy bear crawling with a rifle, with a sniper gun.
There's a lot that needs answering, but some of the theories out there are just plain nuts.
We're on the same page. So the questions of how we got to this point of vulnerability with security, I think, are fair and need to be investigated.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to this presidential race, you're looking at a guy that was already probably the favorite to win that has become more of a favorite. You're looking at a guy that is indicated he's going to make a vice president announcement, a vice president pick very shortly. Today is the speculation.
That'll be interesting.
It's on the wire right now that Trump will make a VP selection within hours. Curious to see who the VP will be. Curious to see if Youngkin is the selection. Curious to see if it's Rubio, the North Dakota governor. Rubio, the senator from Florida. Curious to see if it's what? J.D. Vance, Glenn Youngkin.
Who knows?
Who knows? Regardless how it pertains to Charlottesville, it's the I Love Seville show. You're going to have some unhappy folks in this community because you got a guy that just saw his platform, his brand, probably humanized and invigorated in ways that we could possibly never imagine. I don't think we ever imagined a presidential campaign or platform humanized or invigorated through a failed assassination attempt that yielded the assassination of a 50-year-old former fire chief who jumped on his kids and his wife to protect them as bullets were whizzing by a crowded Pennsylvania campaign event. I don't think any of us could ever imagine or visualize a 20-year-old army crawling with a sniper rifle on a roof within eyesight of a president, within a stone's throw of Secret Service, with those in attendance screaming, "There's a man on the roof with a gun," and they choosing to do nothing about it.
I certainly didn't have any of that on my 2024 bingo card.
I did not have that on my 2024 bingo card either. So how it pertains to Charlottesville, a voting area that certainly leans very left, is I was following it on Twitter, I was following it on social media. Those that were the biggest opponents or haters of the former president were categorized, it seemed, in two camps. The first camp was the one-time city council candidate, I won't utilize his name, who's in the conspiracy theory camp, that this was pomp and circumstance or a political stunt done by the Trump side. I think most of us realize that that is asinine. The other camp is of this mindset that this is probably going to push the man to victory. And it's coming to terms with it.
I think there's a high likelihood of that.
High likelihood of that.
He's going to ride this wave as long as he can.
We chose to have our 6-year-old watch this with us. We weren't sure how to handle this, and he had a number of questions, our 6-year-old, about this. As you can imagine how a 6-year-old minds work, he has a number of questions. But I felt compelled, and my better half agreed, that watching history in real time could be a teaching moment for us with him, especially because this is a topic that he likely will learn from or learn of in school. I would imagine this is a topic that comes up middle to high school, if it's not a topic that he was hearing talked about today at swim practice or at sports practice. We had some electrical work done at our house yesterday by two Hispanic electricians, and I speak some Spanish. They speak very little English, and one of the first topics they said when they walked into the house was, "Did you see what happened to Trump?"
Wow.
Sarah Hill Buchensky watching the program. She says, several local voices proposing that it was a publicity stunt. Absurd and ridiculous. These people have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. Vanessa Parkhill watching the program in Earlysville. She says, the shooter was a registered Republican, but it has also been reported on one of the major news outlets that he reported to a progressive cause in 2022. Sorry, he donated to a progressive cause.
I'm sure there are a lot of Republicans who dislike Trump.
Janice Boyce Trevelyan, thank you for watching the show. Vanessa also says, thank you for sharing the weekend news with your son in a thoughtful and responsible way. Better he learn about that type of thing from you where he has the opportunity to discuss it in a caring environment than through friends or online. That's exactly what we thought. Exactly what we thought, because we knew at sports or at practice the next day or when he was hanging out with friends that it likely would come up. Kevin Yancey says, one issue is the Secret Service and local police were not communicating on the same channels. He says it was an AR-15. It's not a sniper rifle. The shots were less than 500 feet away. I apologize. I don't have my gun terminology completely up to speed. It was an AR-15, not a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for that correction. Last I checked, an AR-15 was not a small weapon, and when you're army crawling on a roof within eyesight of hundreds, if not thousands, of bystanders screaming, he has a gun, he has a gun, he has a gun, he has a gun, that would seem to be a security breach that should be neutralized before any shots were fired.
It is a rifle, yeah.
It is a rifle. Anything you want to add to this before we get to the next topic? I'm curious to see, this is another thing I'm curious about. Many in Charlottesville asked City Council to issue a stand on Ukraine and Palestine. Initially, City Council did not issue a stance on Ukraine and Palestine.
Yeah.
And then they were pressured by activists in a crowded city hall during an open meeting to issue a stance on Ukraine and Palestine that ended up being a pro-Palestine stance.
I was going to say, was that both that they were?
It's pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if a similar response is asked of council when it comes to domestic soil, an assassination attempt on a former president who's currently running for office. If the activists that pressured council to offer a stance on Palestine and Ukraine across the world, will they have the same motive, the same momentum, the same mission to get council to offer a stance or a statement on domestic soil and one of the most historic assassination attempts in American history? You have the most historic ones, what? Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, a failed Ronald Reagan, and now a failed Donald Trump. Will those same people ask or insist of a statement from council on Donald Trump? And I would bet you $100 that no, the answer to that is absolutely not.
I mean, I'm sure you're right that they're not, but it's not the same thing, though. It's apples and oranges. I don't know that who would the statement be to, and what would it be? What would he be attempting to do?
Condemn violence when it comes to politics or violence of any kind on domestic soil. We're condemning violence in the Gaza Strip. We don't condemn violence in Pennsylvania. We're condemning terrorism, what was perceived to be terrorism by activists, which was terrorism in Gaza, but we're not going to condemn a failed assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, a mere handful of hours away.
I see what you're saying, but I still don't know that. I mean, until we hear about U.S. cities making statements about the same way they did with the war in Gaza. I don't know. I don't see it being a thing.
The governor is making statements.
Yeah, but
Delegates are making statements.
I get what you're saying, and they're just very different situations.
So council has more reason to make a statement on Palestine and Ukraine than an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
hours from us.
because I'm not sure who the statement about the assassination would be to. The statements about the war in Gaza are a political attempt to pressure our country, pressure Israel to get out of this war, with the hope that enough of these people giving these statements is going to at least turn some heads, cause some news headlines, and obviously the hope is to end the war, end the violence. But in the case of the assassination attempt on the president, what would the purpose of the statement be? The shooter is dead. Are you trying to influence whoever may next decide to take a pot shot at former President Trump?
What was council doing offering statements on Palestine and Ukraine and Gaza and war?
Because those are ongoing events that they're hoping to have some influence in.
This happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
I would say this is still an ongoing event.
Who are you?
My point. This is my.
Who are you trying to influence?
My point is the hypocrisy of it.
I get what you're.
My point is, we have 5 people that live in the city of Charlottesville making $18,000 a year, the mayor $20,000 a year, using a pulpit called a dais to talk about geopolitical stewardship. And those same 5 people may not use the same pulpit and the same dais to talk about domestic soil assassination attempt on a president.
I mean, I could see them making a statement saying, we are against violence of any kind.
Please, please do that, council. Please. Please, council, do that. Deep Throat has a joke, his photo on screen, number 1 in the family. He says this city council would be more likely to appropriate vibrant community fund money for the shooter's family than they would vote a resolution to condemn an attack on Trump. Deep Throat, of course, a little tongue-in-cheek right there. Ginny Hu, one of the key members of our family, top 4, I would keep researching the registered Republican angle, especially in a state where you have to be registered with the party to vote in that particular primary. There are people who register with a different party hoping to affect the outcome of the candidate running in the general. Very good comment from Ginny Hu. Very good comment. Georgia Gilmer says, add Garfield and McKinley to the list of presidents assassinated while serving. Kevin Yancey pushes back on me saying, I'm sorry, Jerry, but putting Trump anywhere in the discussion with Lincoln or Kennedy is a far stretch. 1,000% agree. Lincoln and Kennedy were assassinated. Mm-hmm. Trump, the attempt failed. We're not putting Trump in the same category as Lincoln and Kennedy. We are putting it on a short list of presidents, standing or former, who faced an assassination attempt. I understand the difference between John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln, who were murdered, and a man who had a bullet graze his cheek and his ear. However, there's a very short list of presidents, active or former, campaigning or not, who faced an assassination attempt. Next topic, unless you have something else that you want to add, or viewers and listeners have a comment that you find compelling that you would like to throw into the mix. And I apologize, we're not live streaming on Twitter right now. We will look into that. We have other topics that we will cover on the Monday edition of the I Love CVille show. We needed to lead with this particular topic because is it the most consuming political story of how many years?
I think it's going to affect every town and city in the U.S.
It's going to affect every town and city in the United States, no question. And I hope for America's sake, Judah, I hope for the sake of our country, for unification of Americans everywhere, that there is not some kind of spiderweb involvement of American personnel or agencies involved in what happened. I pray to the Lord that's not the case. I pray that there's not any CIA, DOJ, FBI involvement in any capacity here.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
No doubt.
Next topic. If you can relay it live on air, that would mean the world to us at the 108 marker of the I Love CVille show.
Livable CVille hopes to save
Help
the
me out.
Carlton Mobile Park.
Help me understand this, please. I mean, maybe hypocrisy is today's theme. The hypocrisy where activists in Charlottesville are asking for counsel to give statements on Ukraine, Palestine, and Gaza, but the same folks won't ask for statements from counsel on domestic soil a few hours away from us in a failed assassination attempt on a former president who's running for president now. Explain to me how a urbanist housing group has now published a playbook on social media on how locals in Central Virginia, Charlottesville, and Albemarle County can policy or lobby council on saving the Carlton Mobile Home Park.
Send an email.
It's all over Twitter. It's on the co-chair's account right now. There's a link on how folks can follow. Is it a Google Drive link?
Yeah.
There's a Google Drive link on how you can save the Carlton Avenue Mobile Home Park. An advocacy guide, it's called, where you can complete, basically you're just signing your name to a document that they've already done.
Yeah. They've written out the email that you can cut and paste if you choose to.
It's a cut and paste email. They say there's 80 households. Charlottesville Tomorrow reported there were 60. Do you have this lower third on screen?
Yeah.
Amazing. Please help me understand this. I've asked this question before, okay? The idea with the new zoning ordinance is to loosen the zoning code, zoning ordinance, so more housing can be created.
Yeah.
And if you create more housing, more density, then the additional supply, the idea is it will stabilize prices because people have more options to rent or purchase. That's basic supply and demand. But if you create more housing supply, purchase and for rent, in Dairy Market next to 10th and Page, you're ripped apart and you're lambasted if you're the developer. And if you choose to create hundreds of new apartments on the Rivanna River, on High Street, you're lambasted and you're ripped apart if you're the developer. And if you choose to purchase a mobile home park through the free market with the $7 million acquisition offer, and you take that $7 million and you reinvent the park into more dense housing, you're ripped apart and you're lambasted. In a city that's 10.2 square miles, a very small city in geographical territory, are we saying that the new housing can't go by 10th and Page? It can't go on East High Street. It can't go by the Rivanna River. It can't go on Carlton Avenue. We're running out of places where it can go. And if you continue to limit the opportunities for the new housing to be birthed, Aren't you then just making the additional areas where it can be created, where it won't face political pressure, even more effing expensive? You have a very small footprint. The housing can't work by the river, and it can't work on those asphalt parking lots and the used car lot that is riddled with potholes. And it can't work in an area that is not being used right now by anyone, that has a beautiful view of a river. And it can't work in this mobile home park, despite it being on the market for sale. Where's it supposed to work?
Are you being completely honest, though?
Which part is not being honest?
I mean, those weren't problems brought up by a group of the same people. I believe it was people living at 10th and Page that had a problem with with Phase 3 of the dairy market, and it was a lot of people downstream from Ravenna that were worried about the floodplain and how changes to that area would affect those downstream of it. And as for this, it's not like there's a comprehensive plan of what is going to be built there. We don't even know who's trying to buy it. I think the problem here is that this is affordable housing. And if you allow this to be torn down, whatever gets put up in its place is not going to be 60 mobile homes or however many mobile homes are down there. And it's not going to accommodate the same number of people. And we're displacing a bunch of people in order to do it.
I'll push back on everything you said is accurate. It could accommodate more people. 7 acres could accommodate more people than the 60 households Charlottesville Tomorrow reported.
It could. But again,
it very well could. Apartments, way more people.
Yeah.
I thought okay, I'm sorry. But I thought the argument was any additional supply was good for stabilizing prices. Are you not pulling the Nikiah Walker, perfection is the enemy of productivity?
No, I think that's BS. Because
perfection is the enemy of productivity. She wanted everything to be perfect.
If your argument is that as long as we're tearing down houses, it doesn't matter what houses we're tearing down, as long as we're building something in its place. Come on, do you really think that's an honest argument?
Deep Throat pushes back on your statement. He says, dude, many of the people who spoke out against Dairy Market Phase 3 were precisely, Judah, the same people who spoke in favor of the draft zoning ordinance in front of council. For example, several LAJC staffers.
Okay, that's
He
fair.
said, in terms of the number of units, you could slice that 7 acres into nearly 50 lots and do less than 10 units per lot and have zero affordable housing. The new zoning is nonsense.
My argument was not about the zoning, but about the differences in these 3 spots.
And my argument is this. This is my argument. Everyone, Michael Payne, Matthew Gillikin, Stephen Johnson, all the housing champions have said any additional supply, whether expensive, whether wealthy, whether middle class, whether low class, whether mobile home, whether granny flat, whether backyard auxiliary dwelling unit, whether basement apartment, any additional new supply, just as long as it's incrementally more, was good for affordability.
Right.
And now we're seeing another project that's additional supply. Dairy Market Phase 3, number 1. Bo Carrington's, Rivanna River Apartment Towers. And now this mobile home park with the $7 million acquisition offer. Getting politically bullied.
I wouldn't say bullied. Come on.
How would you not say bullied?
Who's being bullied?
There's a document, a playbook that says, urgent, tell Charlottesville City Council to preserve the deeply affordable housing in Carlton Mobile Home Park. Ahead of their meeting today, councilors need to hear from constituents that this issue is important and that we do not want our neighbors displaced from their longtime homes. We need all hands on deck. Our campaign asks. City Council worked with Habitat for Humanity and other affordable housing partners to allocate the additional funding needed to preserve deeply affordable housing at the Carlton Mobile Home Park and stop the sale to a private developer. Charlottesville City already used taxpayer dollars to buy dirt from Wendell Wood to make it a park by the Rivanna River. Charlottesville City already caved to political pressure and persuaded Chris Henry to table Phase 3 Dairy Market and the incremental tax revenue that would come from building apartments at Phase 3 Dairy Market that right now is a effing pothole-ridden asphalt parking lot that is not yielding nearly the tax revenue that apartments would. And now Livable Seville is demanding that City Council use taxpayer dollars to partner with Habitat for Humanity to develop this or to preserve it for mobile home families. We took tax revenue off the table and kept housing pothole-ridden asphalt parking lot. We took housing off the table and we turned dirt into a park by the river. And we're taking taxpayer revenue and we're going to make a mobile home park some kind of joint venture with Habitat for Humanity. Guess what? Let's go ahead and raise the meals taxes. Let's do it again. Because we got to have to come up with another pot of money. Let's go ahead and raise the lodging taxes. Let's go ahead and raise the personal property taxes. Let's go ahead and raise the taxes on our houses. Because we have to come up with another pot of money. We needed a pot of money to buy a park. We needed a pot of money to preserve an asphalt parking lot on Preston Avenue. And now we need a pot of money to preserve a mobile home park. Let's raise the meals tax. Let's raise the taxes on our houses. And you think I'm joking, it comes from that. That's where it comes from. It's hypocrisy. They want the housing to be in the prolifically or historically affluent neighborhoods. That's where they want the density to occur. But that's never where the density is going to occur. Right. Because the prolifically, historically affluent neighborhoods, the dirt is too expensive to develop. And look at where the development has tried to occur. An underutilized, forgotten asphalt parking lot by a used car lot. Look at where the development has tried to occur. A mobile home park. Look at where the development has tried to occur. A forgotten bank by the Rivanna River. Look at where the development has tried to occur. A beat-up rancher in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood that's still traded for $835,000. A postage stamp of a lot at 303 Alderman Road traded for $835,000. How many acres of this is the mobile home park? How many acres for the $7 million? Do you remember?
Isn't it 7 acres? Am I way off?
I'll tell you right now. $7 million for 6 acres. 303 Alderman Road in the Tony Lewis Mountain neighborhood. $835,000 for, I'm looking it up, 0.31 acres. There's your microcosm. $835,000 for 0.31. Did I say it was 6 acres? How many 0.31s are in 6 acres? 18? 18 times 835,000. 15 million. You take the 835K for the 0.31 in Lewis Mountain, and if you use that as your baseline, it'd be 15 million for the Carlton Mobile Home. Now, that's not an apples to apples, oranges to oranges comparison, because location, location, location.
Yeah.
But you see the point I'm making, right? Everywhere that there's affordability is where the development is going to happen. Look at what Roger's doing in Woollen Mills. He could never have done what he's doing in Woollen Mills right now, and still the 3 houses he's bringing to the market are going to have a high 680, 690 in front of them, and they're 1,500 square feet with unfinished basements, what he's doing in Woollen Mills. If you haven't listened to the Roger Voisinay, Richard Price interview on the I Love Seaville network about a month ago, 3-4 weeks ago, it was what a master class on how to navigate the new zoning ordinance. It reeks of hypocrisy. This is not going to happen on Park Street. It's not going to happen on Rugby. It's not going to happen in North Downtown. It's not going to happen off Barracks. It's not going to happen in Greenbrier. Nora Gaffney says they should not build by the river. Making it a park is absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant move to keep the banks of the Rivanna River a park until we all realize that all our taxpayer dollars, all our taxes are going to go up as a result. And when we all say, hey, we're paying 12.3% in taxes when we go out to a restaurant in the city of Charlottesville, if we want that number to keep going up, we continue to encourage government to start forming joint ventures where they use taxpayer resources, where they take dirt off tax rolls. Philip Dow says, raise the taxes on alcohol and cigarettes. If they raise the taxes on alcohol, that's going to hit the restaurants. You want the taxes raised on cigarettes, J-Dubs? How much do you pay for a pack of cigarettes?
Don't drag me into this.
How much is a pack of cigarettes?
Don't drag me into this.
How much is a pack of cigarettes?
Call a store.
How much do you pay for a pack of cigarettes?
I don't. $7 now, maybe.
$7. You know how much a pack of cigarettes was when I went to UVA as a second year and thought it was cool to smoke Camel Reds? $2. And I would bet you that $7 you're paying is not the actual price. I bet you it's way more than $7. You might be paying $7 if you go to a tobacco outlet and buy them in bulk. If you're going to the 7-Day Junior right there, there's not a chance in HE double hockey sticks you're walking out with a pack of Camel Lights for $7. Because I can go up and ask them. Do you have anything else you want to add to this? Livable Charlottesville, save the Carlton Avenue Mobile Home Park.
No thanks.
Kibosh the free market. Keep the free market from doing its thing. Anyone? I don't mind keeping a park by the river. And I understand the concept of building in a floodplain and the risk you have there. But the risk was navigated by development, by the developer who came on this show and said we understood the inherent risk and we had to seek the approval for said inherent risk, and we had it. So building in the floodplain, the risk of building in the floodplain, government said it was fine. Deep Throat says this, you hit the nail on the head. When the Muppets screech about every bit of incremental supply is 100% positive for the affordability, they know that's not true. They know that taking out Carlton Mobile Home Park will make affordability worse for the lowest cost tier of the market. They just refuse to admit that the dynamics of affordability are more complex. There it is. There it is. This new zoning ordinance has created an issue where it's the most affordable land. The most affordable land in the city is the one that's being targeted for the new zoning ordinance. And of course, the most affordable land is the land that houses the population that's on the financial margin that they're trying to preserve in the first place with the new zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Buford Middle School reconfiguration. Let's allocate $80 million to Buford Middle School reconfiguration. And to get that $80 million, we're going to raise taxes on all the citizens. Do we care that the increase in taxes on all the citizens for that $80 million is going to push out the kids that we wanted to see to benefit from the $80 million beautiful Buford Middle School reconfiguration? That's called collateral damage. And the collateral damage of the new zoning ordinance, the collateral damage and the crossfire of the new zoning ordinance is the land that is the most affordable, is the land that is being targeted. And the land that's being targeted by the new zoning ordinance and speculators and investors and developers is the land that houses the impoverished.
Yeah.
And we said this from day, I said this on this show and wrote this on I Love Seville in op-ed format 4 or 5 years ago. This stuff fires me up. Anything you want to add? Sarah Williams on YouTube. Low-income people need a place to live in the city, and we keep selling what they can afford. We don't need more parks. We need low-income housing.
The problem is, who's going to build it?
Who is going to build it? Who is going to build it? PHA is a developer. Piedmont Housing Alliance is a developer, and it has to pencil out. I want everyone to, Neil Williamson has done a fantastic analysis. If Neil was here, I could ask him about this on PHA and some of the projects that it's done and how much it's penciled out per unit. Astronomically expensive. Appreciate your comments, Sarah Williams, on YouTube. Love that you're watching on that platform. What's the next topic on the talk show, my friend? The Mel's Cafe closing?
Yeah.
Put that lower third on screen. We said this was going to happen. I said this was going to happen. Did we not say this was going to happen? Permanently closed now, Mel's Cafe. The Google listing has been updated.
It's a shame.
It's a travesty. But we said after the passing of Melvin Walker, who is going to continue the legacy of a restaurant tied to a man who works pretty much every shift, every hour, and has the brand named after his surname, his first name?
Yeah.
And I got another question for you. If you work a business and you work every shift and have very limited staff, is that a company or a hobby business or a passion project?
Yeah.
If the business supports a labor pool tied to one man covering all shifts in the food and beverage industry, it's not a consultancy offering white-collar service. We're talking a short order cook here.
Yeah.
That's a passion project, a labor of love.
Mm-hmm. Unless somebody can match that
Output.
That love and that labor.
You don't have a company.
Yeah.
On top of that, the building is for sale.
Yeah.
On top of that, if it's not Mel answering the phone or in the restaurant, it loses the connection with the consumer. On top of that, you don't even know if you can match the execution with the product. On top of that, the headwinds with food and beverage are dramatically different than when the business was launched. Labor, cost of goods. On top of that, it was a handshake agreement with Mr. Walker and the landlord on rent and renewal. And would that same level of trust exist with 2.0, the next generation of ownership and management?
Right.
All these reasons we outline on this Fine and Fair talk show why we thought this business would not survive. And it proved to be correct. And I have a question for you. A fair question before I get off this topic. You know what I'm going to ask? What do you think I'm going to ask?
I have no idea.
$10,223 was raised on the GoFundMe to save Mel's.
You want to know what's going to happen with that money?
What happens with the 10 grand?
It's a good question.
What happens to the $10,000? With the Save Reeds Market GoFundMe, the revenue went to keeping Reeds in operation.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the 10 grand?
Yeah.
We learned from you last week that
Hopefully it'll be given back. We learned that that GoFundMe does not require all of the the goal to be reached in order to utilize the money.
there it is. What happens to it?
I hope it'll be given back.
Will it be refunded?
Remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. Next topic, Judah B. Wickhauer. I think we have 2 left, right? Multiple people asking why we're not streaming on Twitter. We will get Twitter up and running. We'll look into this after the program. We
Gambling.
apologize for not streaming on Twitter.
Gambling in Henrico.
All right. There's a gambling facility in the works for Henrico. The owner of Colonial Downs and Rosie's Gaming Emporium has drawn criticism from an Henrico supervisor who said the company circumvented an update to zoning rules by submitting plans for a gambling facility in the county before the new rules could take effect. Churchill Downs, Inc., which owns the New Kent County Racetrack and the 7 Rosie's off-track horse betting parlors across the Commonwealth, filed plans last month to convert part of the Staples Mill Shopping Center into a casino-like parlor with 175 historical horse racing game machines, along with a restaurant and bar. They're building an effing casino here. The facility is set to fill a nearly 25,000 square foot space between a Virginia ABC store and a Subway restaurant on the western end of the shopping center's main building at Staples Mills Road and Glenside Drive. The currently vacant space previously housed a surplus furniture and mattress store. The property's B2 business district zoning allows historical horse racing machines and so-called parimutuel wagering. I've never seen that word in my life. Parimutuel. As a by right use with a maximum of 175 machines. They're proposing 175 exactly. More than that would require a provisional use permit from the county, a process that would also require a public hearing. Because they're sticking to $1.75, they don't need a public hearing. A rule change came a week after Churchill Downs, through its Colonial Downs Group LLC, submitted an application for a building permit for the project. Sounds like a pretty savvy and sophisticated team here. Mm-hmm. Deep Throat says parimutuel's betting where payout is based on what is wagered. House take is basically fixed. Okay, thank you very much. He's saying the house is not raking a percentage off the top like a lot of casinos do.
I believe also the top three split the pool.
When I ran my sports book in college, I took a rake on losses, 10%. That juice was how the book made money. Mm-hmm. And you know more people are going to lose than they're going to win, and then you take the juice. So, Henrico Casino, 175 machines, bar and restaurant. Mm-hmm. They did it days before the law was changed.
Yeah.
You got beef with that? Eat a pork chop. It was the law at that time, and they understood the loophole.
Yeah, why wouldn't they try to get in ahead of time?
There it is. There it is.
If you haven't changed the law yet, why are you mad at us for trying to...
There it is. And you know what that reminds me of? The new zoning ordinance. You changed the law to build more housing, and now people are adapting to the new rules, and now you're trying to change the rules again because you realized you screwed up when you made the rules in the first place. They screwed up when they made the rules in the first place, and now they're trying to change the rules again. It led Judah and I to wonder this question: where would a casino work in Central Virginia? It's a clear-cut one place for me for a casino to work in Central Virginia.
One place?
For a casino to work, the first thing you need is what?
People willing to give you their money?
No. No. What's the first thing you need for a casino to work in Central Virginia? Political will.
Okay.
Political allowance. An allowance, I don't mean money from your parents. I mean permitting, green light, a willingness. That willingness would never, ever happen in the city of Charlottesville. That willingness would probably never, ever, ever happen in Albemarle County.
We'll have a Hooters here before we have betting like that.
Our wings are good, but our breasts are the best.
There it is.
Hooters. What? It's their tagline. It's their tagline. Fluvanna County, 90%, 96% of Fluvanna County's budget is tied to residential rooftops. So you see the priority of commercial in Fluvanna County, next to nothing. There is one county in Central Virginia that would green light a casino. Name that county, Judah B. Wickhauer.
There's one county in Central Virginia, did you say?
One. Name that county.
I'm horrible at the counties. Orange? I don't know. Who is it?
Louisa.
Louisa?
Louisa County. Louisa County is the most pro-business county out there. Louisa County understands the concept of business development. You see that with their attraction of Walmart, a distribution center, with Lowe's. You've seen that with how Louisa's managed Spring Creek's development. You see that with how Louisa has navigated $11 billion infused by Amazon on the near horizon with data centers. Louisa County understands its proximity to Charlottesville and Richmond, and its standing next to Interstate 64 are a huge asset. And if a casino of some kind could come to Central Virginia, that's the county it would go to, and it would attract consumers and gamblers up and down the 64 corridor.
No doubt.
That's where it would work. Gambling and Central Virginia, that is one rev stream that is missing. And I'm not hyping gambling, I'm not yay or nay gambling. But you don't see gambling in Central Virginia. I'm going to save the last topic to tomorrow's show. The Jefferson Council, its president, has issued a compelling statement on the affordability of the University of Virginia, or lack thereof. The University of Virginia, out-of-state first years are paying $80,000. And if you're a McIntyre School of Commerce, that's an undergraduate. That's not a master's in business. McIntyre School of Commerce is the undergraduate business school at UVA. You're paying north of $90,000 a year. A third of the University of Virginia student body, a third, 33%, is out-of-state undergraduate students. If a third of the student body is paying $93,000 or more per year, of course that is going to have significant impact on the look and feel of the student body, on whether lower and middle class students can afford and their families to attend the University of Virginia, on the privatization of the University of Virginia, the diversity of the University of Virginia, both in race and economic. And it's going to have a catastrophic impact on the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County surrounded by the University of Virginia. If a third of the students that attend the University of Virginia can flirt with $90,000 a year.
Especially when you look at the average out-of-state tuition costs for public universities in the U.S. They don't even come close to that. I mean, not even like near it.
That's a topic for tomorrow's show. No surprise that Charlottesville and Albemarle County are changing rapidly. If you enjoyed the program, let us know in the comment section. Good show, great show. Thank you for watching. Spread the gospel. Let folks know about the I Love CVille show. Like and share the show. It's the Monday edition of the program where we talk topics that pertain to Charlottesville, Albemarle, and Central Virginia. For the star of our show, Judah Wickhauer, my name is Jerry Miller, and it's the Monday edition of the broadcast. So long, everybody. No way an AG double hockey sticks. It's $7 for a pack of cigarettes.
Calling me a liar.
What?
Calling me a liar.
I'm going to go to the 7-day